So hi, I'm Chippy. I'm running for Union President, as you said. So my name's actually Alex, but everyone calls me Chippy. Interestingly, because I used to own chipmunks when I was younger, so the nickname started a while ago. Yeah, a bit odd, but
cute.
Yeah, and there are a lot worse nicknames out there. So I'm kind of running. I'm currently doing a sabbatical year as ICSM president. So I represent, unfortunately, only undergrads. Sorry. But I represent about 2,000 students at the moment. It's given me a really good insight into how the union works. I've worked very closely with the union sabbatical team this year, but I've also been a little bit separate, so I think I've got some ideas about how we can change the role, how we can better support some particular groups, because I think we do really well at some things and we're falling down on others, things like supporting GSU, engaging with postgrads, where historically we haven't really got that one right yet. I think my family think I'm crazy.
Good crazy, I hope.
I think my friends would say I'm not afraid to laugh at myself. I don't know if you watched Meet the Candidates on Wednesday, but I was asked to dance. And on the actual video there's music, but when I was dancing there was none. But, you know, I'm happy to laugh at myself. I'm quite an upbeat person. The thing I think I really bring to the role is experience. The fact that come August I can really hit the ground running. Having seen the team this year, it really takes a couple of months to find your feet, but I already know the systems. So I think that means I can spend a full 12 months working on my manifesto pledges, rather than sort of really trying to find my feet and then getting going. So I think the most effective thing that I've done in preparing for my campaign was meeting people face to face. I think we rely very heavily on emails, and that is a time thing. It's easier to send an email than to have a meeting with someone. But every time that I've met with a student, whether they're a postgrad or undergrad, they've got so much to say. On Monday when I was campaigning in JCR, I met a master's student there, and we sat and had a 20-minute conversation about his experiences. That was so much more useful than any survey results I've ever read. So I would like to think that listening is a forte and something that I want to keep going. I think at the moment the GSU has the potential to be something really good, but the union just isn't giving that support. So things that I want to do is clearly take sort of the GSU committee and do like a meet and greet, show them who the union staff are. So, you know, if this is your issue, this is who you go to, so that they know that those channels are there. And if they do have problems, we can work together to build them. And also just make the postgraduates a bit more aware of GSU. So I think there are some groups of postgrads that are very engaged, but I've met a couple of postgrads who didn't really necessarily know what the GSU does, and I think that's quite a common theme across the union, is the perception and the communication we put out. So that's something I want to do, show the wins and the possibilities of what we can do if students really kind of get behind this.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Tom Bacarese-Hamilton. I'm running for Deputy President Clubs and Societies. I currently study medicine and I'm in my 5th year. I think most people would turn around and comment about how personable I am. I find it quite easy to get along with people. I enjoy having a good conversation one-on-one or to a lot of people at once. And I think that's a really important thing to bring to the role. I want to be able to sit down with as many people, hear their problems, try and find issues, solve them, ensure that everyone's getting what they need out of their clubs and societies. As I've said, I've been here for 5 years. I've done a year already in a very similar position to DPCS. I've been a management group chair. So the skills I've got from that I've got the experience. I have worked very closely with nearly 60 clubs this year, managing them, organising them, promoting them, helping them solve issues, fixing day-to-day problems with them, escalating it if needed. So I understand the system quite well already.
So really the role you're applying for now, it's a stepping up from...
It's a step up from what I've been doing this year, yes. So I've spoken with Stephen a couple of times this year. He sat on one of the boards with me. He's a GSU rep, I believe, who's had a similar position. There is, as you said, disengagement between the postgraduates and undergraduates, the postgraduates in the union, even the undergraduates in the union. So overall engagement is something that needs to be worked on, but with specifically to postgraduates, it's about finding out what postgraduates want. I'm not a postgraduate myself. I don't understand all of the issues that you will face. However, I want to reach out and try to understand those issues as soon as possible. I'd like to hopefully host some sort of a meeting if I was elected in, go out to non-South Kent campuses where I know a lot of postgraduates are based, and try to get a general feel of what postgraduates want, not just from me in clubs and societies, but also from the union as a whole. Specifically with clubs and societies, there are some clubs that are very good at engaging postgraduates. I'd want to find out how they managed to do so. I believe one in particular is actually our women's rugby team. I'm not sure how they managed to engage postgraduates, but they do. They've had a few. They have regular people who turn up to their matches to support, and I'd like to find out why that is, what they're offering specifically to postgraduates that make them want to do that. But there's a large number of societies out there that I'm sure would want to learn from things like that.
I'm Nick, I'm a fifth year medical student, and I'm currently the Academic Affairs Officer for ICSM, so it's kind of the step below the DPE. Interesting fact about myself, last June I met Novak Djokovic in person.
Oh, excellent.
He's my favourite tennis player, probably idol, so I was pretty happy about that, and that's the most interesting thing about me to date, I think. I like to think there's a good sense of humour, dry sense of humour, and probably like to complain as well. I do like the occasional moan, but I think that's what you need to get change done. You know, if no one complains, then nothing ever changes. I'm running against one other guy, and as far as I can tell from manifestos and our meet the candidates during the week, I think the biggest difference is experience. I've been, as I said, Academic Affairs Officer this year. Last year I was a year rep as well, so I've kind of worked up the steps, and I've been to all the SSC, the Student Staff Committee meetings, dealt with faculty, dealt with college, and I think that I have a very good understanding of the whole kind of overview of how education works here at Imperial, and I think that's the biggest difference between the two of us. It's important, and it's good that we're talking about this today and trying to engage more with the postgraduates, because I think there is a big divide in how postgraduates, from what I've learned, feel that the union represent or disengage with them. And in terms of their relationship with college as well, it's very different. So when I was out giving leaflets during this week, I met a postgrad who's in his final year. He said he doesn't want to vote, and he just felt completely disengaged, felt that no one kind of interacted with him as a postgrad. He was separate, segregated, and that's not good. You know, I don't think it's bad. I think there's a lot of issues that we have to deal with postgraduate students. It's very different when you're in a lab or you're in a very small master's talk class of 25 people versus when you're in halls in a lecture of 300. So I think it's much easier from that perspective to feel isolated. And I think we need to do more to engage at the union with certainly the Graduate Students' Union as well. And one of the things that I've said in my manifesto that I want to do is to make sure that we have better communication between the two, between Deputy President of Education, maybe welfare as well, and the Graduate Students' Union. You know, lots of different things. I think if we look at the P-TEST and the P-RES results, which are kind of satisfaction things done every 2 years for postgrads, I think that can show us where we need to look at from an educational perspective. But I just think better communication between the two and making people feel comfortable that if they've got issues, they can raise it with their rep, they can raise it with their supervisor or whatever, and they'll be listened to. And I think that's difficult change to make quickly, but it's something that we need to start looking at and slowly build towards and hopefully make things better.
I've been at Imperial for 7 years as undergrad, postgrad, PhD now, so I've had experience in Imperial from a wide variety of perspectives. I've also spent almost all of my free time enjoying the various clubs that we have. and I've spent a lot of time working with those clubs in committee positions, specifically the Live Music Society. The things that I want to do as DPFS is basically improve the bars in a wide number of ways, such as being able to pre-order food online so that when you get there it's ready, so no waiting. But also to make the administration of clubs simpler, so that volunteers that run the clubs and societies can spend more time enjoying them. And I've got a load of other miscellaneous policies, and you can find them all on dpfs.me. Interesting. I like music a lot. I play drums. I also play a little bit of bass guitar, keyboard. I have, as I say, I've got a wide array of experience from lots of points of view, and I've been involved in the system for so long that I've got a lot of backstory in how things are run, why they're run. I think a very clear difference between us is Matt, it has a lot of sport focus, and I personally haven't taken part in any of the sports at Imperial. I'm not really a sporty person, but I think I can still make up for that by talking and working with the athletic clubs committee chair, and basically relying on those services. So I think the way that you do this is you have to speak to them and see what they think could be done better. I think some of the ECUs have previously said that they feel that the union is given more resources to deal with problems than them, and they feel that because they are somewhat closer to the students, they could sometimes deliver services such as welfare better. So I think we might need to look at how we spread services between Central Union and CUs, and see if there's areas where we can try and do it less centralised, if that makes sense in certain conditions.
Okay.
So I'm a fourth year chemistry and business school student, and I play rugby for Imperial, and I run for Department Finance Services, as you said. I'm always smiling. It's
As a matter of fact,
almost
that's a real
infectious.
fact. I see you everywhere, and you're always
Yeah.
laughing.
So over my 4 years at Imperial, I've interacted with the union quite a lot, being part of a couple of club societies, being on quite a few committees. I was ACC Vice Chair last year, Athletics Club Committee, that is. And so I ran 4 of the biggest bar nights at Imperial. So I know sort of the finances side of the whole of the bars and the responsibilities which Deputy President of Finance Services has. I am actively engaged with all these clubs and societies. So for this role, I think I'll bring a lot of my experience from those previous roles, but also I'm hugely passionate about getting everyone involved and giving the people who are involved the just reward for that time they put in. And I know lots of volunteers, all my mates in committees and all that, they spend a lot of time, and I just want to make that easy for people to engage with and easy for people to deal with and organise stuff. So, from my experience, clubs and societies are a great way of engaging people with the union and socially giving them sort of space to relax and make friends and enjoy themselves at Imperial. And so I would love to increase the engagement from the Graduate Students' Union, from all the postgrads we have here. And sort of by doing that, I want to make it easier for people to join clubs and societies and attend the events. So specifically with sports, I'm proposing a coach service on Wednesdays, which goes from here to Heston and Harlington, the 2 sports grounds that Imperial owns, or 2 other sports grounds that Imperial owns. And so along with, I was outside talking to Luke, who says that they approved having Wednesdays off for taught postgrads. And so it sort of ties in perfectly with that now those changes have been approved, I'm just going to make it one step easier for people. So it almost gives you one less excuse to say no. But apart from that, the other thing which Deputy President of Finance and Services has control over is the bars and shops and other commercial outlets. And these are most of the places where people go to socialise with project groups or with just their mates. And so I would like to improve the spaces so there's somewhere which is more desirable for you to go. And therefore, you're more likely to go, yeah, why not? Let's go have a drink, or let's go have dinner together. And I really want to engage the postgraduate community socially, and make them appreciate their time at Imperial more.
Right, so again, Fintan O'Connor. I'm an undergraduate chemical engineer. This year I've been the CGCU welfare officer, so I've been looking after the welfare concerns of the undergraduate engineers. That means I've been working with the current DPW, the role I'm running for, at Union Council, the union's decision-making body, and the Community Welfare Board, where I meet up with all the other people in the college who are concerned with welfare, and we talk about ideas and hopefully take some action. And as DPW next year, I would, if elected, lead that board. So I decided to give up and just give in to the deluge of all this, this invasion of everyone's newsfeed with election stuff and vote for me and vote for me. And I got a really nice endorsement on one of my profile pictures, and one of the postgrads that I worked with over the summer, Parth in chemical engineering, and he said that one of the few people I know who lives by his values and really sticks to his word, and it was such a really sweet endorsement. I was really taken aback. One thing that came up at Meet the Candidates was that I felt I had a more varied manifesto and an awareness of a breadth of knowledge that perhaps they didn't. So while some candidates were very experienced in, or very well versed with intersectionality or with mental health issues, I felt that I could appreciate that. I mean, I have done mental health first aid training this year in my current role, but also the strategic value of the Deputy President Welfare role. We have a relatively new Vice Provost of Education who's following up on the Institutional Culture Report, who's really interested in working with the Student Union. And that's why it's so exciting to be the DPW for the coming year, that you're in a position where a college are listening to you, they want to make change, they want to change that word map from that report where the biggest thing is competitive, and there's all these sort of weasel words that mean they have positive and negative connotations all the time. We want to create a better environment for everyone who studies and works at the college, and I think that I can do that in a way that perhaps the other candidates aren't quite as well placed. One big point of my manifesto was increased support for campaigning and for liberation officers. I really feel that its grassroots movement is where most people interact with day to day, and it's those lots of small pockets of experience that can often shape how you feel about a place. If we give all students, undergraduates and postgraduates, the tools to campaign for what they feel passionate about, to create communities, and give them the support to do that as easily as possible, which perhaps doesn't exist quite the way we'd like it to at the moment, and tap into that passion that exists within the postgraduate community but perhaps doesn't find an outlet through other clubs and societies at the moment, I think that'd be a really powerful tool for engagement.
My name is Katia, and I am a Masters in Bioengineering student, so I'm a postgraduate. I did my undergraduate here as well, so I did biology in Imperial, and before then I have lived in Moscow, because I am Russian, as you can tell from my surname, and I lived in Cyprus, and now I live in London, and my parents live in Luxembourg, so I'm very kind of international. Wow. Yeah, and I really love being international as well. I think it's really cool, and like traveling and stuff. So when I have a hermaphrodite dog, which a lot of my friends find really interesting, it's a very weird dog. It's like a Chinese crested dog, and it's kind of like we bought it as a girl, and we thought it was a girl, and then we took it to the vet a few months later, and they're like, "Oh my god, we've never seen this. Like, what is it?" And now the dog is like 16 years old, and obviously having some health problems. And every time we take it to the vet, they take like a symposium of kind of vets and being like, "Oh, how do we do this? Because it's got so many organs we can't deal." So that's one of cool facts. Another cool fact more about me is when I was in Russia and I studied in Russia in school, part of the school curriculum was how to assemble and disassemble an AK-47. And so I know how to assemble and disassemble an AK-47, not that I've ever used it. I think this year we actually have a really good selection of candidates for DPW, and it's great to see how varied everyone's manifestos are. Everyone's focusing on entirely kind of different things, and I think everyone's got the experience and like the right ideas behind them. I think what makes me stand out is that my policies are all about how to make the student union better rather than trying to go through college, because to me it seems that welfare is one of the things that unfortunately college can only do via education, and that would be welfare officer working closely with DPE to work on the education part of college and organisational part of it. But welfare in terms of mental health and in terms of student support is something that we as students should be responsible for, and there is a system for it. So, for example, the system of welfare officers, and that these systems just need to be improved. And a lot of services that I'm trying to propose in my manifesto, they are aimed at kind of students supporting students. So, for example, workshops for students to help them support their loved ones when they go through mental health problems. I think that's really important because in terms of mental health, you are more likely to go and talk to someone you know, to someone you trust, which is not going to be college. And I think it will, in the time frame that I'm given, being welfare officer for like a year, I think that would be more realistic to implement, because with college you just have to keep campaigning and keep lobbying the college and trying to get them to approve your actions, while here it will be a lot more just strengthening the things that we already have and strengthening the systems such as welfare officer positions and making sure that it's all integrated together and that we all function as a community. So I think that's the important part of my manifesto, that other students, I'm not sure, maybe they would want to implement that as well, but they don't focus on it as much. And I believe that I put that as my first thing, to make Imperial students more of a community where you're not alone, you have your friend, or like not even a friend, just any student at all who has gone through the same things and who will help you through it. And I think that's really important. I really believe in that. Well, yeah, I think it's quite good in the sense that I have been an undergraduate and a postgraduate at Imperial at the same time, because it came as a shock to me when I moved to being a master's student that I'm not part of a constituent union anymore. And I don't understand why that's the case, because I think the events should all be available to all students. So, for example, like I'm still part of Department of Bioengineering. Why am I not like part of the actual CGCU union? I mean, I emailed them because I was like terrified that I'm not getting the emails of all of the things my friends are going to, and I just found out that, well, we can just add you in. So why is that not a thing that happens anyway? So I think that would be really important to implement, that all the postgraduates are still part of ICU, CGCU, and if they want to, they can just unsubscribe. Also, I think obviously improving the communication between welfare officers would allow me to talk like a lot more between, like to bring the welfare officers of both undergraduates and postgraduates together so that they can communicate within each other, and like we can find the way that my actions as a DPW will benefit both parts. I think in terms of welfare as well for postgraduates, especially for the postgraduates that are here for just a year, or the postgraduates who didn't do their undergrad in Imperial, when you just initially come to Imperial, it's such a shock. It's almost the same, like it's exactly the same as being a fresher when you're 18 and you just come to university. It's specific to Imperial that it's a shock because the workload is intense, the expectations are really high, and I've spoken to a few PhD students and they have been finding it quite hard, like the first year of integrating with the community. So I think it would be important to have some sort of kind of drop-in sessions during like periods of intense stress. So like maybe first few weeks that should be drop-in sessions with welfare officers who have previously been to Imperial to just kind of listen to what the students say and reassure them that that is what everyone else is experiencing.